Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to today's water cooler chat, where we all things Livepeer, whether it's delegating, orchestrating, gatewaying, developing, transcoding, AI inference, or anything to do with the Livepeer ecosystem. We're here to ask questions and get answers. We got a couple topics ahead of us. A lot of it is around LLM inference, ticket EV, reliability. We also have discussion around a potential transcoding SPE, some community updates, and a lot about SPEs and their progress. So I want to kick us off real quick. I like we've got a lot of topics around LLMs and stuff, but let's start off with just a couple of governance things. So first off, the agent SPE. The AI SPE. Sorry, that one is now passed through the Treasury. So congratulations to the AI SPE for the third stage of funding and their continuation on the development of the AI pipelines in the networks. That's so super awesome. Second, we have the agent SPE, which is halfway through its voting now and looks like it has garnered enough support to pass by now. So looking forward to that passing and the funds getting distributed so we can continue on our work with the agent SPE. And then finally, we have kind of a new idea in here about a transcoding SPE. So I want to start off with some governance first, and then we're going to get into the nitty gritty of the technical details of what everyone is working on. So Marco, do you want to kick us off real quick? What is the transcoding SPE? What is this idea you have? And give us an introduction as to what you're thinking.
Yeah, I can get us started. So when you look at the core development around the protocol, we see a lot of stuff happening around the AI pipeline and Livepeer Studio, of course. This is great because Studio is still, the main demand driver on the network, but we also still have a transcoding pipeline, which, maybe has become a little bit still these past 2 years. And so, for example, things like a bad stream bouncing around between nodes or the static session limit, which can cause a decoder or encoder to become overloaded, or stuff like Intel support, because Intel CPUs actually have really good chips in them for media processing. And so the idea is, why doesn't the MIS server team, being media experts, take the lead on this, much like the Livepeer Inc. is supporting the AI development efforts. We're actually in the position to hire one or two engineers, give them a contract, pay them in euros or Livepeer tokens, maybe fold in a bounty program as well, and actually, become the de facto maintainers of the transcoding pipeline. And so today, because we're still in the pre-proposal phase, I'm just a bit feeling the waters. I want to know what you all think of this, if there are any feature requests, any complaints or not. And also, I have two of my colleagues here, Tholima and Balder. So maybe they would like to introduce themselves as well, but mostly just want to open up discussion for everyone and hear your thoughts about this.
Yeah, that's it. I'll quickly give my comment and we'll open it up. I think that's amazing. I think the Treasury is fulfilling its goal when we have SPEs running and maintaining the open source code. So I think that's well in line with what we need to be doing. So I'll open it up now. Does anyone have any feedback on kind of having an SPE manage the transcoding pipeline and own that?
Only question on my end from the marketing perspective, do you have any thoughts around that in terms of like promoting transcoding more or no?
Yeah, so this wouldn't really be focused on generating demand itself, but just making sure that we have, actual maintainers committed to, fixing bugs or tackling these issues as they come up. I think we have some. I think like the issue like the static session limit is pretty annoying when, your decoder gets overloaded and all your streams get dropped. It's also bad for viewers because they will immediately notice this. And
Right.
we have a lot more stuff which we could work on. We have our own wish list, like decreasing latency by moving to a streaming workflow, or having a better communication between nodes so we can detect errors earlier and switch to another orchestrator earlier, that kind of stuff. But this wouldn't be focused on generating demand in itself, but mostly just development effort.
Awesome, thanks. Good clarification.
Anyone else?
From what I know about the Marco and Thal, and they definitely seem more than qualified to be picking up an SPE that handles the technical stuff. So that's just my 2 cents on the subject.
Yeah, definitely. I think so what would be the first, off the top of your head, I know it'll probably come in the pre-proposal, what would be the first what would be the first actionable item that you would take care of, that you see right now that is pressing, that you would work on? What is the first thing you would do if this SPE was approved?
So first of all, let me read Doug's question. Yeah, so the idea is that we would lead an SPE to work on the transcoding pipeline ourselves, as well as hire 1 or 2 full-time engineers or set up a bounty program to tackle some of the most pressing issues. And so stuff I'm thinking about, there are some easier issues like making sure that AV1 support gets over the goal line, or I really want to see Intel support, because for remote transcoders, an Intel CPU is way cheaper to rent than NVIDIA GPU, or for pools as well. A remote worker might have unused Intel CPU in their system. So those are much easier to add early on, build some confidence, get familiar with the code base as well. But in the long term, we really want to move to a streaming workflow. I think that Thalema can speak more about how this would look like, because this would greatly reduce the latency from viewer to ingest. Yeah.
So when you say something like in supporting AV1, would that be upgrading FFmpeg and keeping that maintained in the repository? Like, that kind of the idea behind that?
Well, the cool thing is that FFmpeg already supports basically every codec. It just needs to be integrated into the Go Livepeer stack. So yeah.
Excellent. Sorry, Thal, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was about to mention that you guys might remember, at least the ones that remember me, that a couple of years back I was talking about what all the advantages would be of moving to like a fully streaming workflow rather than using the segmented workflow that we've had up to now. And we kind of want to make that a reality because it hasn't really received any attention. And yeah, as the Mist team, we were kind of sad that that hadn't materialized, and we wanted to just make it happen. Like, if no one else is doing it, let's do it ourselves, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think orchestrators would probably be in support of this. And to echo what Papa Bear said, I think there's probably no one else more qualified and technical knowledge to handle such an SPE like the Mist team. So yeah, I'm super excited for a pre-proposal to read through and follow through on that. Any other comments you Thal or Marco want to add about this type of proposal or this type of entity? Or this is just I know this is just an introduction, so there's lots of things to iron out, but any last words or comments you want to mention?
Well, I think we will like to model a bit after the AISP, because they've already done a lot of work for their own pipeline in terms of hiring engineers and setting up a bounty program. To answer Mike's question, we don't have a pre-proposal yet, but we will have a small presentation in the during the Treasury talk on Wednesday. Might be a bit of the same as today, but yeah, we will have a pre-proposal up soon enough.
Yeah, this is. I was just gonna say what Thal said. This is a pre-proposal. This is the chat before the pre-proposal. So yeah, this is good. This is excellent. So no, it's a really good topic. Looking forward to it. And yeah, if you need any feedback, obviously we're all here. And so yeah, a transcoding. Is that what it's going to be called? The Transcoding SPE, or thinking of something else?
Well, we might rename it, but I think it at least it's very descriptive about the contents of the SP. So
Yeah,
it probably will be called that, but maybe not.
Very good, very good. Excellent, cool. Well, looking forward to that, and please just tag people in the governance channel and post it there when you're ready, and we can all have a read through. Okay, let's continue on. So we got the governance stuff out of the way. Let's do quickly community update and then dive into the technicals. And do you want to give us updates on your side of things?
Yeah, so I made the first announcement for January in announcements, and I think the kind of big things I want to highlight is the AI Builder community is growing. We now have 68 members. I think it might be 69 or 70 today. We also did that closed daily challenge that some folks were in. We have paused that, but it was definitely good learnings for Livepeer. The other one is the Hacker Demo Days coming up. Hacker Program Demo Days coming up. That will be in a week or two. It'll be January 22nd. And we also have a Comfy UI NYC meetup as well. The only other thing the two other things on the community end, we're finally finished with the security updates. So I hope folks have noticed that there is a massive reduction in spam and in phishing attempts. Yay, success. We also are improving the Telegram, or I'm not improving it, Alvin is improving the Telegram, and making that a better place to connect. And of course, more degen speculation behavior is allowed there. So hop on over and see all the new topics we created. And of course, Alvin will be managing the community over there. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is I am developing the community strategy, reviewing that internally with Ria, and hopefully we'll start to see more events starting next week. The first one will be a weekly Twitter space with myself and Carlotta, kind of to what I've talked to Mayor about, and as well as other people. I'm trying to tap more into top of funnel, generating hype and generating more energy towards the Discord. So that will be a pretty big unlock, I think. It's going to take a little bit for it to gain steam, but the consistency should help with that. And actually, one last note, Carla and I have been working on making sure that the events are consistent. So starting next month, we will have consistent events. They won't change. They won't be rescheduled. They won't be canceled. So people can expect what that content calendar will look like. For the Twitter space, if anyone has any topics they want to discuss or things they want to showcase, I'll figure out a way to do that shortly, but you can always DM me and I can, let's say we want to talk about Eliza or we want to showcase the agent SP that Mayor and others are doing. That is completely fine and would honestly be great to make more visible what's happening in the community. So those are all my updates. Last one. The grant program has been paused. So I am working through the final grants, and Rich and I will be collaborating on refurbishing that and making it more aligned with Inc.'s goals currently. So that will be changing, and hopefully by end of Q1, we'll have that up again. And as well, if anyone has any questions on what I said, let me know, but that is kind of my info dump for everyone.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. And we appreciate the work in getting the bots away. So huge one. Thanks for the community updates. Looking forward to progress on that front. Okay, let's dive into the nitty gritty. Let's dive into some technicals and a couple updates from the Agent SPE. The Agent SPE looks like we got some good support, so excited for that. Quick update. So we're basically just really testing the LLM integration now. It's tough though because the main repo and the developer repo for Eliza sometimes breaks because so many people are pushing stuff. So every time we want to test something, a lot of times we have to like rebuild things just to make the development branch work, and then test our integration. But in doing so, we found some other bugs, and we're really just in the testing phase of just making sure that we only do one push on the Eliza front, and that is going to be the finished version for a while. So, getting the documentation right, getting the reliance and the retries right, getting the all types of just really just making sure we don't have to go back and keep pushing updates. So we've got the code. We're just kind of reorganizing some things, and I'm sure Define can talk about that. Define, do you want to give us an update on the code for Eliza, where we stand, and what your concerns are, or what your hurdles are before we push the code?
Okay, so the code was tested today. It works. So both the image and the LLM integration, both of them work, especially with today's fix, which fixed an issue from our side. Now, the issue that we have is mainly with the gateways and the orchestrator network itself, and thus we need to really have some information to really have some metrics of what we want to achieve, what kind of behavior is the optimal behavior before we push that. For the technical, what needs to be done is I just need to cherry pick the commit that you did for the bug fix yesterday and to push it on the on our dev repo, and then just merge with their develop repo again, and it's ready to go technically. The only reason that we have to go back and change stuff is if something changed on the form that we submit, the post form that we submit for the LLM request from the go live side. So that's the only thing that can be done. So outside of that, this is for the LLM integration. As some of you may saw, Eric wants to present something on some Eliza meeting, and we are creating the plugin for Eliza, which will allow live streaming. And we have some ideas to create a very quick proof of concept in the next 2 or 3 days so that we can present something more to the Eliza community outside of the existing work.
Excellent update. Yeah, I'm excited to keep testing it. I know that the testing has been tough with the develop branch, but we're getting through it. So yeah, thank you for pulling in that error that I fixed, and also rewriting the code so that it's more reliable. And let's take our time to make sure we do it right, that people don't have a bad experience. So there's 2 things I want to address just while we're in chat here. So one is the reliability of our network, which is Livepeer, whether we want to add fallbacks on the Eliza side, or whether we want to spend our efforts trying to optimize the gateway side on Livepeer. So like, for instance, I kind of threw around this idea of Eliza having built in a fallback gateway. So therefore you could, or even just having a comma separated list of gateways as an option in the env file. So, it would try the first gateway. If the first gateway comes back unavailable, maybe it would iterate through another gateway or something like this. And so that could be a solution on the Eliza side to increase chances that you're going to get inference. And then so that on the Eliza side, we can add fallback URLs, but on the gateway side, like right now, if the cloud SPE isn't doing inference, like how do they manage? Maybe they have an opportunity to fall back to a different gateway through some middleware, or maybe they want to call to a different service provider in case like it goes wrong. And so just these kind of like network errors that right off the hop, like the first month of LLM inference is probably going to be pretty tough. And so I'm just trying to figure out where we could add crutches to allow a better user experience. So yeah, I posed that question.
Can I ask a question? I need a refresher. Did you guys originally you were going to put in OpenAI support that OpenAI API calls would work? Did you end up then changing to your own code to submit the requests?
We removed the SDK early
The
on
SDK, okay.
because, yes, because Mike said that there are problems with the SDK. So we did the post request. There's not an issue with the request per se because it works on the Titan's gateway. It just doesn't on other gateways. And to answer on Titan's question, let's say, my suggestion is to not do any kind of fallback on the Eliza side and to try to optimize the gateway or the orchestrator side because we don't yet understand why this is an issue, but to just really be able to push it and be confident that people will be served properly, we need to say that okay, we have 8B Llama 3.1 models on the network. They can get that many calls through. Okay, so if something happens that it's not right, it's a gateway issue, most probably. So we need to go and see the gateway. So we need to optimize the gateway to see that everything is going through perfectly, and then the orchestrator side, in my opinion.
Okay, so your recommendation is let's have the Eliza integration the same as every other service provider, which is here's your one endpoint, it's gonna work, right? And then on the reliability side, we should be focusing on that as a network and fixing that on our end, and not making crutches with the code on the front end.
Exactly, because we will have a great deal of issues if we don't address this issue now with every other kind of application that we try to integrate with the system. So I think it's a inverse issue of the network. The network right now isn't properly addressing the inference requests that it gets, and we need to resolve that.
Yeah, and I think that'll just happen over time between AI SPE and the cloud SPE and our SPE working together to work on that. I mean, these issues, we literally have a big conversation coming up in the next after this about how to fix those pipelines. But yeah, so I think our current implementation with Eliza then is correct, which is we're in line with everyone else's style of how it's being handled. The network side, we need to fix the reliability, which is totally fine. It makes sense. I mean, we literally have we're running LLM on a pre-release. That came out a week ago, right? So there's still a lot to be done.
Do you mind? Can I ask what's your gateway setup? You're running the gateway, and then do you have a proxy for that?
Yeah, I just got a caddy reverse proxy, just so that it can do HTTP.
Okay, so for the certificate. Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's
Yeah,
just a standalone gateway running default.
Yeah, because we seem to be able to get a few LLM requests come in, and they work fine, and then for whatever reason, and we can't tell exactly, it's like 3, 4, or 5 requests come in on a gateway, and then they just stop. They stop going to the orchestrators. like almost nothing in the logs to to go on. So we're just we have some ideas on ways we can work around it, but it would be better to fix it rather than to work around it. So
Is it hitting
Pop
Speedybird?
there.
just curious. It's not hitting anything from after they stop working. They don't hit anybody. So
It doesn't go to the
it
orchestrator.
doesn't even make it. It doesn't make it to an orchestrator. No, it just comes into the gateway
Okay,
and
okay,
just like
good.
pretty much dies as far as we can tell.
I was having that issue where mine was getting stuck on Speedybird because my
That's
price
it.
per
Yeah,
pixel
no,
was
that
too low.
issue. That's a gateway selection algorithm problem that's been a known issue for a while, and that needs to be addressed for sure. Because if it makes it to an orchestrator that's not working, there's got to be some, or it needs to just not stick to a broken orchestrator. And what happens, at least from what we're seeing, is that because the orchestrator is broken, they get the response. I mean, I know it was a little different with you, but the response comes back really fast. So they get, it doesn't matter if it's a successful response or a failed response. It's fast and it gets like credit for being fast. So it'll keep picking them again and again and again because there's no one's as fast as they are. And I'm like, well, that doesn't really work to send it to a broken one again and again and again. So, so there's that issue. But then we're also seeing another issue where they're just not going, like, for whatever reason, and we're still trying to figure this out. After a few requests, they just basically make it to the gateway and they don't go anywhere from there. So that's where we are. Oh,
Yeah,
Brad's typing something.
yeah, the
You're right.
gateway would definitely need some. I think that the issue on reliability is just a lot with the gateway because an orchestrator is not set up correctly or can't handle the inference. It should not affect the gateway at all. Gateway should be able to identify it immediately and route around it.
I agree too.
So
And,
this is all a gateway issue. I am seeing Brad says I'm looking at my part with my refresh of the PR later today. So yeah, Brad is definitely working. So yeah, I'm excited to see that continue to develop. So again, just want to reiterate, we basically got the code ready on the Eliza side. We're just doing some more testing, and then so rest will be all on the gateway and the AI SPE team. Work closely with them. The next item I want to address on the Eliza side is so number one, define. One thing we forgot in that PR is the adding the comment of the default models that will be used for the small, medium, and large models. So that was in the doc. It was in the other branch, but the branch that you did a PR, those were eliminated. And what I noticed was the small and medium models were using the 8 billion llama model. And then the large model was using the 70 billion llama model. Now, the question I have is, do we want to make them all the 8 billion model because they're all very reliable? Or do we want to leave the large model as the 70 billion and as the default? It doesn't get called very often. Like I'm noticing when I'm running Discord, like the large model almost never gets called. But if it does, the Livepeer network is going to have at least one reliable orchestrator doing 70 billion. So I just know that's a lot harder. So
if the 8 billion is good enough, I think that's the way to go. Just because, I mean, it takes a lot more resources to run the 70 billion. I mean, a lot more.
yeah,
So,
I do agree
I just
with
think
that.
if the 8 is doing it, I mean, is good enough, then that should be I think where at least we start.
but
So,
this is just for the large model. So define. Tell us what you think.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
so the issue will be if you have one worm. Right now, we have one worm model for the 70B and 5 worm models for the 8B. So by default, the model which is used in the chat request is the large model. So by default, if we have the 70B defaulted, what it will be done, all the requests will go to the that one worm model, which even if it's not one, it will be way less than the 8B models. So we will have a network overload from that. So for that reason, I believe we should go with the 8B.
Okay, so in your defaults, then we're gonna switch the large model default to the 8B instead of the 70B. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so yeah, so add the comments into the .env file. So all of them are 8B. Change the default file on the back end to make sure that they're all 8B. And then again, within the documentation, if somebody wants to try out the 7dB, I mean, it's in the documentation. I have it listed there. People can go in and make all the modifications. And I think that's the proper way of doing it.
That's totally.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to address that. Great. Okay. So yeah, on the Eliza side, I mean, with those two kind of ideas in mind, like we're really close to having this pushed. Which would then give LLM and image inference on the Eliza network, and away we go. Now, I have built a tutorial of how to launch an agent using Livepeer within 10 minutes. So I have a written tutorial, not quite done. There's maybe some things I want to add or remove, but I have the tutorial finished, at least the first draft. And then once I get some feedback on that tutorial and whether something did or didn't work or whatever, then I'll go ahead and make a video tutorial, which again is going to be in 10 minutes. How to build an AI agent in 10 minutes with Livepeer, and then we're going to have our the rest of the agent SPE team. As soon as we get the funding, they're going to go out and start promoting our program of anyone who uses or builds an agent with Livepeer is eligible for $100 in Livepeer tokens. So, how that will work is over the next 2-month period, people that are running agents using Livepeer have to have their agents on, and we will take a snapshot. So we'll coordinate this between the Cloud SPE and our gateway, which is we'll take a 48-hour snapshot of every IP address that sends in inference, and if their IP address matches what they submitted on their form, then we know that they followed the guide and they're doing inference, and they can claim their $100. And in doing so, by giving them $100, we get their Discord information and put them into a developer pipeline of contacts who've used this, so that when we go ahead with more features, we have a kind of a cohort of people that we can push this to. So that's the kind of the idea behind it. And for those that haven't seen it yet, I will post the link of the kind of the the version that's live right now if anyone wants to give it a try and give me their feedback. However, the branch, we haven't pushed it to development branch yet, so it technically won't work. But if you feel like picking our branch, then yeah, you can give it a try. Anyway, just wanted to give that feedback on the plans for the. So yeah, that's it. Does anyone have any feedback on that plan itself for getting developers and launching the first integration of Eliza with Livepeer?
Only feedback from me is just to loop me in so I can help promote.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we're gonna have our SPE team members out there pushing it, and I'll be pushing it. Yeah, we'll definitely share it with the rest of the community. But the idea was I also wanted to make the proposal or the guide for people that are developers but also not developers. And so the idea is I'm starting from the very beginning, which is like how to rent your virtual machine. So go to DigitalOcean, buy a droplet. You need at least 8 gigs of RAM. Okay, log into your virtual machine. Okay, clone the GitHub. Okay, PNP install. Okay, edit the env. So like start from the very very beginning, so anyone can do it. Obviously, the developers are gonna skip right by setting up your VM. Like they know how. They probably have their own server, so they can easily scroll past that part. But I want to build it so that like a lot of people get the introduction of the very beginning of how to launch an agent then how easy it is to launch with Livepeer. All it is one line of code. You change it from, model provider Anthropic, you change that to Livepeer, and it works. It works out of the gate, right? So that's kind of the idea behind the tutorials. That it's super simple. Anyone can do it. And if you want to learn more, obviously, join our Discord, contact us, blah, blah, blah. Fill in your forum to get your $100 Livepeer. And what it does then, too, is it encourages people to run their agent for 2 months, which would then drive traffic, 2 months of traffic from whoever runs these things to the network. We can really test, some load, and we can test reliability, and people know that they might be more willing to stick around with Livepeer, even though maybe the inference has failed a little bit, because they know they're going to get that $100, that airdrop. So there's an incentive for them to keep their machines on Livepeer, driving traffic, and while we do fix all types of bugs that we probably can't even. That's the idea behind it. Okay, so that's the agent SPE kind of really short-term roadmap. Let's get on with the rest of the topics, which is around reliability of the gateways. So one issue I ran into was ticket EV. I was running into an issue where my ticket EV, I had a max ticket EV set with my gateway, and that was failing because I wouldn't get any work from any orchestrator because my ticket EV was too low. So I added 6 zeros, and now it works. So that's confusing. I still don't know what. I've been in Livepeer for like 4 years. I still have a hard time figuring out what ticket EV, how it works, and what my value should be. So that was one issue, was managing ticket EV, and how we could somehow eliminate gateways requiring even to enter a max ticket EV, and it should just work. And then the second was price per pixel or price per unit. Again, I just set my arbitrarily high. I thought it was. All LLM requests were failing because it wasn't high enough. So I added 3 more zeros, and now all orchestrators are opened up again. So from a gateway perspective, like, how do we manage price per unit so that we also get the orchestrators to work? And obviously, lastly, the pipeline, making sure that like the selection algorithm works, stuff like that. So Papa Bear, can you kick us off a little bit around kind of what you've been seeing with your gateway, what struggles you've been seeing, and like kind of give us an overview of the cloud SPE setup?
I mean, the main issue we've had up until LLM was the selection algorithm getting stuck on a broken work. I mean, that was by far the biggest issue we've run into. When we first started out figuring out what the right ticket EV to use and that kind of stuff, I know it took us a little bit of trial and error to get that going. But it's been so long, I don't remember, other than probably doing pretty much what you did, just kind of just increasing it to see where it needs to be to work. But if we want an explanation of how all that stuff works, Brad can probably speak to that better than anyone involved with Livepeer, period. That's where I go for my info.
Yeah, Brad, how do we solve the ticket EV issue? Tell us, almighty.
Don't think there's one answer for that. I mean, you have to do the math and calculate what you expect to be paying based on the request you're sending in, and the ticket EV kind of has to match that. I mean, at its heart, it's a defense mechanism on the network, so that it can't be exploited by an orchestrator requesting a massive ticket EV that is way more than is needed for like a single inference request, right? So they would set it as high as they could, do the inference, and then just keep asking for more tickets. Does that make sense?
Doesn't it just change the amount of tickets are issued per, like inference kind of thing?
Yes, but it's not like per pipeline, so it applies to everything. So if you have a really cheap pipeline and you set your ticket EV to something astronomical that the gateways are willing to accept, then orchestrator could figure that out and update their ticket EV to match that. Now, then if you have a lot of traffic, you could be overpaying by a more significant amount.
They also have to raise their price per unit, right, on the for that pipeline to exploit it. It's not just the ticket EV alone. Am I
Well, I
wrong?
mean, if the ticket EV is super high, you're going to get that ticket EV because they're going to set their ticket EV to that amount.
But I thought ticket EV, all it does is change like the probability of the tickets, and then you just get more tickets, right? Like I didn't think it actually changed the price that you pay in a probabilistic sense.
If in a perfect world the tickets add up to the exact cost of the inference, you're correct. But tickets are usually larger than one inference, so you're going to prepay for a lot more.
Right. That's why with transcoding, we had to reduce that a lot, because what was happening is if you got paid on a first segment on like something, like if it was a bad stream and only had one segment, you were getting paid for like that ticket came through with the value of like 100 or 200 segments. So that was costing Livepeer Inc. a lot of money.
Yeah, but like in AI, maybe it's less of an issue because a lot of them, it just depends on how high you want to set it. Like if you want to get 2 tickets instead of 3, then that's probably fine. But if you want to set your ticket EV to 1 Ethereum, 1 ETH in way, it's going to be a much bigger issue, or it could be.
Right, because I think like the issue I was having was Speedybird was asking for 4,700 tickets for one inference. Right? And I was like,
Yes.
that seems unreasonable, but I just want this damn thing to work. So I just added 6 zeros and I matched it,
Yeah.
right? So
I hear what you're saying, but that's not what gateway providers would normally want. They don't want to overpay arbitrarily without having any guardrails for the most
Well,
part.
and shouldn't Speedy be skipped at that point if
No, he also had
or-
to ignore max price, so he was
okay there
full
you go.
sending everything.
Okay.
yeah,
on the network.
yeah, no, I was like, I was full, yeah, I'm full sending. I'm like, dude, you could charge me like 1 ETH per pixel, and I was like, go for it,
That's the Titan way. Yeah,
I
no,
was
that's
like,
the Titan way.
Yeah.
Mainnet.
dude,
Mainnet Titan.
mainnet forever,
Yeah.
let's go. But then
But I mean, if you only have a deposit of 0.1 ETH, you're gonna be okay.
So what did you say the price was set at?
Speedy Bird, I want my money back. No, I'm just kidding. What I don't know what you set your price per pixel to, but or like your price per unit. It didn't seem outrageous, but what was happening was like the ticket EV was like really high, and so like you were asking for 4,700 tickets up front for one inference, and my node
Yep.
was like, no. But for whatever reason, when I used that flag, ignore max price if needed, I would only get stuck with you. And I think this is what Papa was mentioning, that I was I was only selecting you because you were probably returning the fastest response of nothing. And so what was happening was I only got you, but then your ticket EV was so high, and then I don't know what was happening. It was all really messed up, but I was running into ticket EV issues. In reality, I shouldn't have to increase my ticket EV because it should have just switched to an orchestrator who is reasonable, right?
My ticket EV, looking at it now, it looks like it's 29 billion.
Did you set that manually?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, okay, this makes sense. So I literally added like 6. I'm at like 37 trillion. Like I'm at like some way higher amount just to accept your failed inference. Like, thanks, man.
You're welcome.
So okay, so this is what, and this is why you didn't drain my node, is because you didn't actually increase the price per pixel. You just increased the amount of tickets you wanted, but with the same amount of price. So anyway, so you can see how I was really confused on my end, because I'm sitting here going, literally the gateway is broken. I'm stuck with one guy who won't help me, and he's giving me ticket EV errors. And I'm like, this is a terrible issue because I don't even, like, if I'm a newbie spinning up my own gateway, I'm like, I don't want ticket EV. If I switched to a different orchestrator, then and it would have ignored him, then that would have been his loss and it would have been his problem. But because of the selection algorithm issue, I think it became my problem. Yeah. Okay, I see what happened now. Okay. This makes a lot more sense.
I'm gonna lower that. I didn't realize it was there. So
Uh,
I think I must have copy pasted something from an old transcoder.
yeah, well, that makes sense now. Yeah. So number one is this actually the ticket EV wouldn't be an issue if the selection algorithm worked. So, Brad, Almighty God, where are we on fixing the selection algorithm?
I have to. The PR I have up is somewhat old. I got to rebase it today, and then I think Rick's gonna look at it tomorrow to get it merged in and how it is now. I am gonna look at for Papa Bear's sake, that error work, like the route through the code for the errors out to make sure it's not giving it a good latency score. Should give it a terrible one or nothing at all. But yeah, that's the plan. Try to get it. I've had it up for a long time. I'm not entirely sure why it didn't get merged, but I know there's some comments I need to clear, some questions I need to answer. So I'll do that today.
Right. Awesome. Yeah. So we just need to continue working on that gateway. Where are we at with the main AI video Docker image? Like, is the first version been merged in, or are we still using just the Brad's version? Where are we at?
I think we're still using mine. I'm testing the latest updates on the worker side right now and updating the Go Livepeer side PR that I have up. Some a little bit changed, so I'm just testing right now.
Right. So we should probably get that working A-OK and very reliably before we push it into.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Papa Bear, does that fix your potential issues, or where do you see yourself? Where do you see the Cloud SPE?
Well, I mean that sounds like that would deal with the stuck orchestrator, which is definitely a concern. But for LLM, we seem to be having another issue on in addition to that, and I'm not 100% sure where that. I'm not even close to actually sure where that's coming from. So we're still investigating that. Now we'll get right back on it after this call. We do have some ideas for workarounds, but like I said, we'd rather just get it. Figure out what's going on and get that working.
Okay, great. Yeah, report back and looking forward to it. The other thing I want to discuss real quick is does the Cloud SPE see like a CPU or RAM spike during image inference or image requests or anything like that? And it sticks it higher, like for whatever reason my LLM requests, like it'll use the CPU a little bit and then fall back to 0 at idle, but when it gets an image request, it just like pins it to 50% CPU and some RAM, and it just never comes down. And I was at 4 gigs of RAM, and many times it went out of memory, and so I had to upgrade it to 8. So I'm just kind of curious what how it's affecting your system resource.
I haven't noticed any. I mean, I haven't seen any problems other than when I forgot who it was doing a bunch of the SAM requests, just a ton of them. But that was, I think, but no, we don't. Nothing has ever caused an issue. I would have to go back and take a look through the logs and see what the usage looks like because it's just never been a problem. I don't usually monitor that. I'm trying to pull something up right now.
Either way,
sorry. Yeah.
You probably have a much bigger machine. I just have like a little droplet, like running out of memory, oh, geez, like gateway is taking itself down. So I'm sure you just he's a little bit more kind of curious.
No, I mean, I don't see. I mean, it kind of just seems to stay pretty level around 4 gigs of memory usage. CPU usage isn't even loading right now, so I don't know. See here. Oh, you know what? Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong node. I can get back to you on that.
Yeah.
I don't want
Yeah,
to
we can do that. Yeah, we can do that asynchronous. Curious.
I'd be surprised that there's a. I mean, there could be a correlation, but it's not a guarantee, right? I mean, if the CPU is getting pinned on your client, it doesn't necessarily indicate the server. Could be client code.
Client code? What do you mean?
Yeah, I thought you were saying that you see your CPU spike during processing
Yeah, the
when
gateway.
calling
The gateway node.
your gateway node. Oh, okay.
Yeah, my gateway. So yeah, I just got it on like a little DigitalOcean droplet, and it's just running a gateway, doing anything else. So and receiving requests, and when it's doing LLM, it's like hardly any resource. And when an image request comes in, like the first one that comes in, it just pins the CPU at 50%, and it is there. And then I think the RAM will increase based on the images because it's saving in RAM. So I don't know. So anyway, I have a feeling it happened when Define was doing his inference tests. He was doing 100 consecutive image requests at the same time, right?
That droplet is just a gateway. You don't have any workers or anything on there.
No, exactly, just a gateway.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Strange.
So maybe the images were building up in the RAM and then making it go But and so yeah, I've had it crash multiple times. I had to upgrade to 8 gigs of RAM and it hasn't crashed now since. But the CPU gets pinned for some reason at 50%. It's not a great, it's just a cheap one, but it's just not returning back down.
Yeah, you would think it was RAM. You'd either get an error, like you're saying, out of memory, or you'd see I/O spike more so than CPU on the swap. Assuming you have swap enabled.
I don't know. I'm running it. I've done no modifications to the node. I run up a gateway, so
Yeah.
is swap enabled? I don't know. I haven't even checked my I/O stuff going on. I literally just see CPU RAM.
Yeah.
So yeah, it could require more investigation. It doesn't seem like it's a big deal. Like it's not failing to return unless I run out of memory. So, but since I've upgraded my memory to 8 gigs, but so I'm not sure if it's a big concern. I'm just trying to figure out if it is something that can out of.
Well, I was just saying to Hunter and the core dev team that running a production gateway is not simple. It's super complicated, and doing it at scale requires a lot of knowledge and being able to do it, especially when you're talking about ticket EVs and resources and IO and network bandwidth. I mean, there's tons of things that go involved into doing it this way. And in fact, there's like no incentive from the protocol to even run a gateway node. So it's one of those things that I think needs to be smoothed out over time for this gateway operations to be a lot better.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said there's no incentive. There's like a
like Livepeer rewards, like an orc type thing. Like orcs are incentivized to run hardware and to provide capacity, but gateways have their own set of capacity and resources that they need to provide. Availability, uptime, as you're seeing, RAM and CPU. There's a lot involved in running a gateway node, and they're pretty much on their own. You know what I mean? There's no economic incentive at all from the protocol to help them. So, and I don't know if there should be, but it's just definitely not. It's not trivial.
Yeah, I wish there was like some way for orchestrator nodes to like mandatory have to be available for inference, open inference or something. I don't know, like some sort of, or like an incentive, but without it being gamed, it's like really tough. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know how to fix that. Yeah, running a gateway is annoying. I've spent too much time on it. I only can deal with it because I'm like, oh, ticket EV issue. Like, I remember this from 3.5 years ago during the Ethereum days. Like, okay, like I'm getting like wartime flashbacks. Like, what do I do? Like, so, and I'm like, I just thinking of like someone who follows the Eliza docs. Like, oh, you can use a hosted gateway on Livepeer. Great. But it's not decentralized. It's third party hosted. People want the decentralized nature, right? There's a whole movement of Eliza being built inside of trusted execution environments like T's, and verifiability of decentralized inference, and like all of this whole like notion of building these truly autonomous decentralized AIs. And Livepeer is like perfectly positioned to be the decentralized inference provider of that, because we can be. You run a gateway, you are communicating with a centralized network. But like, how do we make that easy for agents? So then on the docs, it's, oh, you can just spin up your own gateway. Great. And then it's like, oh, good luck with that. Yeah, I think you're right, Mike. There definitely can be an improvement on gateway incentives and setup, you know, I don't know, guidance, like support.
Well, we try. I mean, we've been running ours at Livepeer Cloud now for a year, or just about a year. In a couple weeks, it'll be a year. So, man, it's not easy. There's a lot going on, and you know, there's a lot of rough edges still to be smoothed out.
No, that's why I'm excited to use you guys as the default gateway for Eliza, because
Oh, I'm sure you are excited for that.
because I'm like, oh, we could use my gateway, and like just all the issues, and I'm like, oh no, like no, like please, Cloud SPE, please take this.
No, that's fine. But like I said, this is where, you know, the amount of effort and energy to just run the gateway and the cost too. Like, you know, when we had that SAM2 burst from Supermodel, like Papa Bear was referring to, it pretty much just crushed our gateway. Every gateway we would spin up, it would just fall down again because they were sending way too many requests. So we had to really go big server for that to even work. And that was not good. And the network bandwidth usage was really high as well. So I think as we get more analytics and start understanding what it means to run these gateways, you know, it's going to take even more energy to build it. And again, these are types of hidden costs that I referred to in our last proposal, where I said to you, even for your pre-proposal, is that go a little higher on those inference credits, because it takes a toll. It takes a lot of money to keep that gateway up and running, especially under high volume. So you don't want to skimp on inference credits.
Yeah, no, that's I actually changed the proposal because of your recommendations. Thank you for that.
Cool.
Okay. Well, talking about load, Define built a script to test some load. I don't think we talked about this last week, but we have it built by then, Define? Anyway, Define, do you want to give us a rundown of what you're thinking on load testing, and what you're seeing, and what you would want to see from the Eliza side on reliability and throughput gateways?
Yes, totally. So a comment regarding the incentives on the gateway. So there are ways that we can add incentives manually without relying on the Livepeer smart contracts, and we can do a lot of stuff with existing open source smart contracts and T environments, where we can even having ZK inside, so we can actually verify if someone is spinning a gateway, if they spin it in specific configurations that we want. We can do stuff, but of course it's way more troublesome instead of applying, in-house remediation. So if the gateways can be more reliable without that, without adding some custom incentivization, which can take 2 or 3 weeks even to be up on as a proof of concept, yeah, that would help. So regarding the reliability side, as we spoke about before, it's better if we think of in terms of what can X model which we have, which our orchestrators have, can handle. So we have the 8B model, how many calls can it handle concurrently? If we emulate 10 or 20 applications be running right now, can the network handle that? So my suggestion is to really go down and ask how many apps they want to handle as a network right now. It is 20, it is 30. How many calls in total I want to handle? LLM calls, image calls at the same time, or in the whole day or in the whole week. And once we have that and we agree on that, then go out and test if we cut those requirements, or if we can serve that kind of clients. Because if we are just say that okay, because right now we don't have a concrete image, or we may have divergent images of what amount of people and what amount of inference we want to serve.
That's a good topic. So we tested like a 100 inference request, LLM inference requests at the same time, and we're pleasantly surprised that a lot came back really quickly with only 5 orcs on the network, or 5 orcs. That worked out really well. I think just to give some context, like in my tutorial for people using Eliza and hooking up to Twitter, it only does 1 inference request every 2 hours to post, which not a lot, so even if you have 100 people running it, like 100 inference requests in 2 hours is very little. I don't think the problem with load. However, for every comment and every post that the agent is following, so if you comment on, it's doing inference to figure out whether it should respond. So if you have 100 Twitter accounts and one of them is following an account that's tweeting every 5 seconds and then it's tweeting back at them every 5 seconds, it can definitely start to get some load. But the fact that we can handle 100 LLM inference requests in 11 seconds, I took at the same time, gives me confidence that even with 5 orcs running nodes, we could probably start with our program. And the image request, we've added some retries onto the Eliza side, but image request is even there. It's a couple times, maybe a couple times an hour. So as of load, like right now, today, I think we can handle what we're planning to do in the next, 4 weeks. But yeah, as we get to scale, DeFi is building tools to reliability of what we need. Go back to the network and give feedback on where we can improve. And
I mean, the issue that we have is it's very hard to assess who is doing the request once we have it out, because there may be one Twitter spammer guy that takes that produces the vast amount of requests that are coming our way. But the problem is that one guy is gonna block the other 10 legitimate guys that they just want to test out their applications. So, and that's a very, a very possible case, because those kind of people, they're going out of freemium and free inference packages to do their spam requests. So if we can have, let's say, some kind of API authentication, it will greatly improve the way that we have to gather statistics. Is that something that may be possible, you guys think, to add the API authorization? Papa Bear, Brad?
Yeah, Papa or Mike, this would be Cloud Gateway.
Sorry. I was doing something else. Can you repeat that?
Oh, no worries, mate. Is it possible to add an API authorization so we can have, for example, okay, we can still serve people that they're coming to the Eliza application to test with Livepeer, but also have the API authorization which we can give to our alpha testers, so we can have legitimate.
We have, I mean, there's no enforcement of our authorization, but if you pass a bearer token to our gateway, we track usage by bearer token. So
Okay.
we'll be able to see what tokens are. So if you give out a unique token to your cohort, each individual group, the cloud gateways will be able to track, the usage based on that authorization token. But we don't rate limit or remove people that don't have an authorization. So if you submit a request and you're not using an authorization token, it'll still work. It just, when we look at the tracking data, there won't be any, it'll just be none for that particular authorization. It'll just be some user, we have no idea what they're doing, they're just using it.
Yeah, so that's very good information, because we can also add different authorization keys on the tests that we are doing, and so we can know that we can track each request on both sides, and we can also produce a bearer key on the Eliza side, so we can add some request tracking from there too, because right now all requests that are coming, we do not have much information, especially on your side. So I think it will greatly enhance the logging.
Define, should we that bearer token, can we just add it? That's not the actual URL. That's just like an additional token. How does that work, Mike?
It's a URL and an API key, just like OpenAI.
So it's the Dream Gateway / and then the trailing.
No, if you go to the Livepeer AI docs right now and you look at it, because you can test the Livepeer Cloud Gateway from the Livepeer AI documentation. So they have an API spec that shows all the URLs and all the parameters that you need to pass. And then they show you with an authorization key, an API key. So the users that use OpenAI are very familiar. It's just a URL and another string value that they append to their request. It's not in the URL, but it goes along with each request that's submitted. So I don't think it's a very common practice.
So it's just in the post data.
That's correct. When you submit the job, it'll include the bearer token, the authorization key.
Exactly. You just it's just bearer, and then you put the token in there.
So maybe Define, is it worth us just hard coding in that the bearer token is the Eliza framework? And then if we go to another framework, we can say this is the virtuals framework, and then you can kind of see all the time. You can look every gateway will, or at least the cloud gateway will be able to look up, where this request is coming in from.
I think it worth it, not only because so think about in that way. In the people that we're gonna work in, for them to be alpha testers, we can give them the different bearer keys, which will identify them, so we know from which person the log came from. But so that's generally good to give bearer tokens for that kind of purpose. But if we add it on the Eliza side, we can very quickly see that one or two or three guys, they try to abuse the network, so we can implement a mechanism that blocks that bearer key. Of course, because it's not a very high-end solution, if it's implemented in a high-tech solution, if it's implemented in the code, if someone is technical enough, they can go there, see it, and trigger with the code to remove it or change it in different ways. But I do think that it protects us from not a lot of like malicious spammers, and give us more logging.
Yeah, it's usually an infrastructure concern. I don't think that's the kind of stuff you don't want to implement. Like I would even advise against doing retries in the code. The request is going to work or it's not going to work. Like I don't think you need to rely on reliable infrastructure. And from a gateway perspective, if we see some particular IP is spamming the server with requests, we'll put in rate limiting or even blocking using infrastructure, though, like common tools and middleware using, infrastructure that's already does this kind of stuff. So we won't have to build anything custom for that.
So you suggest not using the bearer authorization key in the Eliza side, not generating a new one for its.
No, I mean, you can generate as many authorization tokens as you want. I'm just saying don't implement authorization and security inside of Eliza. Like the infrastructure should support that.
No, I wasn't talking about adding security features. I was talking for doing that if you guys think that it can enhance logging from your side.
Yes.
I don't think we
Go
should
ahead.
be handing out custom bearer tokens, though. I think that's a pretty high barrier to entry. Isn't it best just to add a static barrier token to say, hey, this inference is coming from an Eliza framework?
Yeah,
so.
that's
Yeah,
fine. Yeah, you can put a single bearer token that's hard coded in the config that when we see that token, we mean that it's Eliza sending those requests.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good way. That's a good way of doing it.
Better idea, yes.
Yeah, so I don't want to be handing out bearer tokens. I just want like the workflow is download Eliza, change one line, and press go, which is you're picking the Livepeer framework, or you're picking the Livepeer inference, and we're going to give away free inference for a while until we start to gain adoption. Then we can go from there. If we have adoption, then we can figure out all types of getting people to pay for it or whatever. But if we can just add the bearer token hard coded in there, that way the gateway, the Cloud SPE knows that it's coming from an Eliza framework. The Eliza, just to clarify, Mike, the retry logic for LLM requests is automatic by Eliza, because Eliza can't do anything without inference. So
Okay, no, that's good. That's fine if they're managing it, but it's not custom code we wrote just for Livepeer. That's what I was trying to make sure we weren't doing that.
No. So the Eliza framework automatically retries because it has to think, and it can only think through its LLM. However, the image generation doesn't have an automatic retry, and if it just fails, it just fails. But the gateway, the Livepeer gateway, doesn't queue image generation like it does with LLM. So if you get 2 image requests at the same time, it will just it'll just send back failed, service unavailable for one, and then do the other. Whereas with LLM, it will queue them. So the gateway, the Livepeer gateway, needs to learn to queue image inference.
I think it takes more. You can do more than one image request at a time from a gateway.
I don't know, because when we send 50 image requests to one gateway at the same time, 2/3 of them fail.
Well,
Yeah,
that could be
the
based on how
orchestrator.
many
Yeah, the orchestrator
models
can
are
only do
running.
a single one.
Yeah, that's right. So if there's only 3 orcs, you mean you want to be able to send 50 all at once. The gateway can queue those up and send them to the 5 orcs that are available, or however many orcs that are there, and let them like process them as long as it takes.
Yeah,
But yeah, the gateway doesn't do that for sure.
it does for the LLM though. You can send one like 1,000 LLM requests, and the gateway will it might take a minute, but it'll get through them all.
Yeah, but I don't. It's
Yeah,
not doing any
it's
queuing.
different.
I think
Yeah.
it's just that the number of orcs and the number of LLM requests are higher. So like you can send them in, and the orc handles it properly. Whereas, as Papa said, it's pretty much you get one, or you get one and you're done. You know what I mean, for a image inference because they're just a bit heavier.
Okay. Well, either way, we did implement a 3 retry, a 3-time retry. It's not implemented yet. We were looking at adding that to this latest pull request, which is we're going to allow Livepeer, and this will be custom logic for Livepeer. No other provider does this, which is we retry 3 times on image. The image fails, then move on.
You see, that's the stuff that I'm saying stay away from, because if there needs to be retrying or queuing, it should happen on the gateway. We should put pull requests up to do that. But if you do what you're saying, a given gateway, if you put retries in there, a job will get sent. And if it fails because there's no orchestrators, or an orchestrator is poorly performing, the gateway ends up paying for those requests. So like it still pays on failed requests, and you just tripled the amount of failed requests that'll come in, and that's triple the payment for a failed request. So that's what I'm saying is, from a gateway perspective, it's not good to have those kind of retries on the application level, because all it does is send in more requests that are potentially going to fail, and just more cost per request.
Yeah, and it's not a pattern that any other model provider is using in Eliza, right?
That's a message right there, right?
So like
don't want that.
So like I think we want to stay in line with the pattern of how Eliza works, because if we get hung up for 10 seconds every time it wants to generate an image with Livepeer, but every other provider moves on, like how does that affect your workflow, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, again, the fact that we're not using open APIs SDK is probably another sign that, we should be using it. It just happens to be that Livepeer stuff that we wrote wasn't working with it. So we should be fixing the gateway to work properly with the open API SDK. But I understand for now, in the short term, just to get some people using it, you can put the custom code in. But ideally, the more custom code we write that's Livepeer specific is more updates and maintenance for us going forward as we try to continue to grow and scale this. So, but if we keep to an open API SDK, they're managing that, they're updating that. We just got to keep our gateways synced up with that spec to make sure our code's working. So I understand where Define's at now, where he's got this custom code in there just for Livepeer, and that's cool to get started. But you definitely want to look at keeping to the standards. Like you just said, if every provider is providing inference in this particular manner, you want to be in alignment with that. You don't want to have to be this like one-off with all this custom stuff or custom configs that make it more difficult. You want to just keep in alignment with the rest. And as the Eliza framework changes and evolves itself, then you're also going to get the benefit of, if this provider upgrades this way, you can just do the same thing, right? You know what I mean? Just follow the way that the community is moving. It doesn't require a lot of custom code, but That's just my 2 cents.
I totally agree with that, and in fact, I'm gonna remove the retry logic. Thank you very much for the explanation, because now we understand better what the exchange, what the operators, orchestrators will have to pay even on failed calls. So definitely, there will not be any retry loops on the Eliza side.
Yeah, and to be clear too, like right now with just how few orchestrators are handling image and just the infancy of it, 19 image requests at the exact same time succeeded, right? So like I just don't think that's going to happen in the short term, but yeah, it's a good point that we should stick in line with how the framework is expecting things to happen.
Yep.
Totally.
Right. Oh, this has been wonderful. Oh, great, because we haven't done the pull request yet, so we're still just really massaging things and trying to get through it, and it's really good to get feedback from the top tier gateway on the network that's handling these requests. So this is really good communication between two SPEs. Really like that.
If they could only make a Discord avatar blush.
I think we could try.
Nah.
Anyway, so that's okay. Great feedback. So define. We'll go back to the drawing board. We'll go back to our IED and we'll make out those changes, review them, and I mean we have the code, like we have it all written out. We just need to pick and choose the ones that we want to, the commits we want to include, and we could have it posted as soon as today or tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, we're definitely, I feel like things are still not quite stable from a gateway perspective. I mean, we're doing a lot of testing and I think we're moving fast. So hopefully we can get a lot of these 503 errors and capacity errors all worked out so that, this is really smooth. So I want to try to move as quick as you guys can to get something off the ground.
Yeah, we want to push into the development branch, just so that we can get in queue to get into the main branch. So that could take a while. And then
Oh, okay.
The update on that. So the draft PR that we have live right now, it's for their development branch, and it merges nicely. So we will not have any issues. I'm just doing the accepting a PR that you did yesterday and do the removal of the retry logic, and it's good to go like in 10 minutes.
yeah, great. Make all those changes we talked about. Send me the draft PR, and then I'm gonna do my testing and make any comments or changes I think we need to be done, and then yeah, we should be good to go. But yeah, Mike, just yeah, we got to get into the development branch, and then they merge it into the main branch, and then they every 2 or 3 weeks they do a major release. So we'll be into ideally we'd eventually get into the major release, and then from there, it'll be easy to build more tutorials when it's in a stable release. Because right now my tutorial requires you to check out the development branch, which currently doesn't compile. Like it's broken. So even if I made a tutorial on how to use it, you'd still have to dig through all the crappy PRs that have been merged into the development branch. So I would rather not build tutorials around the development. So our goal is to get it into a stable release quick enough, and then in that time we can really work on the gateways. Well, actually, I should rephrase that. Brad can really work on the gateways to get them up and running. So big shout out to Brad. King Brad. Cool. That's very exciting. I'm very, very excited for this. I think we've got a good option to get in there and provide a really good service to for the Eliza community. And then, yeah, so does anyone have any, okay, we've been at this for an hour and 40 minutes. Does anyone have any questions or topics on LLM inference, any of the pipelines, any of the topics that we've talked about so far?
I do have one question for the audience here and everyone who would like to comment. So we're also developing the plugin for Eliza, which is a streamer plugin which will allow agents to basically live stream with zero human participation, just from prompts and initial images. Do you guys have some utility that you would like to see in such a plugin, or would you have some recommendation regarding the tech stack that could be used, whatever, if you want to have a utility there, just let me know, or any kind of feedback would be great to have.
Yeah, I've got a concept in my head I've thought about, which is I would like the live stream to be able to interact with text that people are talking about. So, and then because it's a live video, they would have to be speaking using the Eliza or the 11 Labs speech voices.
Yes.
And so the idea would be, if you're streaming on X, it would be, which it already does, it reads comments. So if you comment on the post, it will Eliza will read those. But then that pipeline would include a modification to the stream to say, okay, what is your response? Now use 11 Labs to generate the voice, and and then the avatar or the live stream will be able to actually interact with comments in live voice in Discord and in Twitter and like all these platforms. Basis, just kind of off the top of my head.
So this is the idea of having multiple platforms interacting with the VTuber. It's great. I will take note on that. So to have people from Discord, people from Twitch, people from YouTube, all sending messages and interacting with the same VTuber, with the same live. That's great. If you go on the VTuber LLM, open LLM VTuber, it's something that's already been happening, but it's not of top quality. But if you talk to the VTuber, either a voice or send a message, it will reply back to you, and I think it uses no, Level Ups, it uses something similar. But yeah, I will take note on the first one. Thank you for that, Titan. Anyone else, guys? Do you have any utility you'd like to see on a VTuber? Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's exciting to see what people do with such a pipeline. Cool. Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah. Where are we at here? Okay, so we talked about one last. So we talked about the ticket EV, LLM requests, transcoding SPE, community updates, measuring load. Let's talk about Speedybird's orc setup. Speedybird, you set up the 8 billion llama model. It wasn't working. I was running into ticket EVs, but I think we figured that one out. Is your node actually replying to LLM requests, or is it broken? Like, what's your current setup? Like, is it currently working?
I think the last test that Mike was helping me with, it was responding to 503. I don't know if that was on my side or what, but I mean, when I hook up my system with an off-chain gateway and orchestrator, the worker works correctly. So it leads me to think that there's something going on either in networking or in the orc itself that I need to dissect and see to make sure that it is working on my end as expected. So I got to revalidate that. I haven't had a chance to do so at this point.
Okay. Yeah, just give us a rundown, because I don't think there's documentation yet for how to set up an LLM node on an orchestrator. Is there? I don't know. Official
I have
documentation.
many. I mean, the orc is pretty much the same. You just got to put the model JSON in place for, or the config for the worker. I'm running everything with Docker, so I have containers for all these different things and using remote workers. So that could also be causing some of the problems, but I suspect that that's not likely because the worker I have, like I said, with a remote worker, I've been able to use it effectively with off-chain mode. So
Right. So you're using an external worker connected to your orchestrator to
I'm using that same setup and it's working for me too. I use it. Yeah, it's actually my workers on a separate machine. So
right.
um,
Yeah. Okay, cool.
and on top of that,
it shouldn't be an issue.
yeah, and I was serving text to image stuff before with no issues. I switched over to LM and then problems started coming up here. So that kind of doesn't add up though, because like I said, it worked in off-chain mode, but not uh, apparently it's not working on-chain with you guys. Yeah, and I can share. I see the chat there. I can share the model config's pretty straightforward. I'm assuming you're talking about this.
It is a weird issue because when I send you a request, like it takes 10 minutes for like on my logs, it freezes up for 10 minutes. And then it comes
Yeah.
back with 503. It's like, whoa. And then it picks you again. So I'm even really confused because it's not from my logs, maybe not on the logs, but from my logs, it shows like it's taking forever, but yet you still only get selected if my flag is set to use any price, just sticks to you. So I don't know what's going on.
Well, that's the selection logic. That's the defect we were talking about earlier. It's been there for some time, and yeah, that's been problematic for a while now.
Yeah.
As far as the latency, that doesn't add up for me either, because when I test this with Postman and I hit the orchestrator directly, again the off-chain one, the response is in a few seconds, and from looking at the output metrics, I'm ranging between 100 and 130 tokens per second,
Yeah.
which is fine for the 3090 I had this deployed on. That's a fine speed. I guess if it was a 4090, I would expect more like 150 to 175 tokens per second.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't have anything off the top of my head that I could target because I don't see any significant change other than putting the LLM in the back instead of the text to image. So I need to run a full end-to-end test on it from using the on-chain orchestrator that I have versus the off-chain that I've been using for testing. And then I might have some more to report back. Oh, okay, here's where the problem was. It was me. It wasn't LM, kind of thing. But that's what also led me to go look at the PR, because I was getting back the invalid responses, and at least that seems to be fixed in the latest PR, where the chat responses for non-streaming was incorrect. It didn't match the OpenAI spec.
Okay. Yeah. Keep us updated on if you find any issues or figure it out. Would be a great opportunity for orchestrators to learn, set up, and do all types of debugging.
Yeah.
So it reminds me of
Sure.
back in the early transcoding days when we were just like deep in the weeds trying to get our orchestra or transcoding nodes, like just so many different ways of configuring and messing with. So this is exciting. I feel like we're deep in the weeds now, so it's cool. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We're at time. It's been almost 2 hours with no more topics. Any last comments or questions before we sign off?
None here.
Thanks for
I think
having us.
Yeah.
Good information was
for-
was shared.
Excellent.
Yep, thanks for leading again, Titan.
No worries. Well, thank you everyone for coming and making Livepeer the open and decentralized video infrastructure network in the world. We're here to answer questions every week. So please participate in the governance. Please participate in Discord and work together, bring this network to the masses. Thank you all for joining. We'll see you all next week. Cheers.
See everybody.
Bye, guys.